Okay, hello everyone. Dear authors and invited guests, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Myself, Harsh Soni, moderator of this session. On behalf of Global Knowledge Research Foundation, it is my great pleasure to welcome you all to the International Congress on Information and Communication Technology. Uh, the eighth edition of this conference is organized in hybrid mode, and the physical event is already ended. And today is the last session that we are conducting for a virtual conference. I hope if you have enjoyed the knowledgeable and interactive sessions through the day. Okay. And there's a special note for the presenters that in this session we have 6 presentation and each presentation will be given 12 minutes for the presentation and 3 minutes for the question and answers. On 10 minutes, I will raise a gentle reminder to conclude your presentation. And there's a one more request for all the presenters that you may all please stay connected with us till the closing remarks so we can capture the good virtual memories of this conference. And if you have any query or any update, you can write it to me in the chat box. Just before we get started, I would like to introduce you all to the chairs for this session. Our first session chair is Dr. Tanupriya Chaudhary, and the second session chair is Professor Paolo Dickey. Sorry for the mispronunciation. Okay. Just before we get started, I'd like to give some short intro about our session chairs. Dr. Tanupriya Chaudhary has 10 years of experience in teaching as well as in research. Currently, he is working as an associate professor in Department of Computer Science at UPES Dehradun. His areas of interest include human computing, soft computing, cloud computing, data mining, etc. He is a lifetime member of IETA, member of IEEE, and computing data mining. Sorry, is a member of IEEE and member of IET UK and other renowned technical societies. He's associated with corporate and he is a technical advisor of Ditya Soft Private Limited, Noida, and My Digital 360, etc. He is holding the post of secretary in IETA. He is also holding the advisor position in Indo-UK Confederation of Science, Technology and Research Limited, London, UK, and International Association of Professional and Fellow Engineers, Delaware, USA. And if I talk about Professor Paolo Dickey, he is an experienced academic lecturer and consultant with demonstrated skills in Adobe, Microsoft, CompTIA, VMware, DevOps, C++, ASP, .NET, PHP, Java, and many more. He is a PhD student in electrical engineering and computing at Singdinam University and applied informatics at FIIT STU. So I welcome you both of the session chairs. And now we start with the papers. Our first presenter is, just a second. Our first presenter is Stefano, and he's going to presenting on digital technologies agency in money making, meaning making theoretical conceptualization. Dear presenter, you may please start your presentation. Sir, your voice is not clearly audible. Still, it's not clear.
Try joining by the phone, maybe to a session. Maybe it's gonna be that way much better.
Yeah. Stefano, you may just remove the headphone and just remove the headphone, please.
Stefano, I think you have solved your issue, right?
Can you hear me now? It's good.
I'm sorry, but it's not audible clearly. Do one thing, sir. You can solve your the headphone issues. Till then, we can allow the next presenter, and then after you can present your paper. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So our next presenter is Aditi Bhatia, and she's going to presenting on fostering adoption of digital payments in India for financial inclusion, policies and environment for implementation.
Hello everyone. Harsh, I'm trying to share my screen, but it's telling me that
Ma'am, try again, please.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Hello everyone, my name is Aditi Bhatia Kaluri. I'm a PhD candidate at the Faculty of Information, University of Toronto. And today I'll be presenting my topic on fostering adoption of digital payments in India for financial inclusion, especially the policies and environment for its implementation. So first I'll talk about the significance of the study, the problem statement, research goals. So in this paper, I have research on the dissection of the policies by the government of India, which were there in place to foster Digital India movement and make all the digital payments happen. The next one is I will be talking about the role of stakeholders such as various ministries, banks, and laymen in this entire process. I will also be talking about insights into the various disadvantages that are experienced by the marginalized users who are at the receiving end of the spectrum, and how are they perceiving all of this. So first, talking about the government as the key player. So overall, in India's digital payment execution, the government's intervention was very, very important. And it consisted of developing a match between the public sector and allocating some of the things to the private sector to make the digital environment friendly enough for the users to adopt it. There were a few things or a few big initiatives launched by the government in an attempt towards e-governance and formalization of economy, one of them being Aadhaar program, Digital India program, demonetization, also facilitation of affordable mobile network services, which were all in place to foster low-cost payments, which was also done by mandating unified payment interface, which means government launched and mandated this new thing called UPI, or Unified Payment Interface, just so that there's not a lot of third-party intervention and not a lot of interference from the private sector, and government can keep a hold on all of that taking place. I will be digging more into each of these as we move on. So first of all, to make all this, the digital financial platform ecosystem prosper, there were banks involved, there were fintech companies involved, such as the third-party intermediators, transactional applications. Common examples are Paytm, PhonePe, Google Pay is also an example of the technology companies such as Microsoft, Apple, Amazon. There were also things like Alibaba's affiliates in India. And again, the reason these technology companies were kind of gaining momentum is because they already had multiple network effects. For those who are unfamiliar with the term, it means that these companies, prior to delving into the digital payment sector, they had a lot of user base, for example, for Apple, for Google, for Facebook. So they did have somewhere monopolistic tendencies, and they were trying to make their space in the financial sector as well. So the platform governance rules were, of course, going to be very tricky with all these players, and they had to be negotiated by the government and these platform regulators, and which also caused a tug of war between the government of India and these foreign investors or the local companies, these stakeholders who were trying to gain significant spot in the market. And before I delve more into it, I would like to talk about the people on the ground, just like I mentioned. So the digital finance and how were marginalized people being impacted by it, or how was it working out for them? So for that, I would like to give some statistics. So the status of digitization in India among 136 countries in 2016, according to the World Economic Forum's Networked Readiness Index, was that India was 8th in the world on affordability of the digital devices. However, if we see all other aspects, it was pretty low. So it was 91st on information and communication technologies to boost competitiveness and well-being for people, 110th on business innovation environment, 14th on infrastructure, and 120th on individual usage. So these statistics are very conflicting or contradictory, because while we can see that it was being afforded by a lot of people, however, it was not doing so well in the other aspects. And the hurdles, especially for the marginalized or the people from the lower socioeconomic background, was in acceptance, which was triggered by a lot of information asymmetry for them, which includes low literacy levels, lack of tech savviness, lack of trust, people already below the poverty line. There were a lot of unbanked citizens. That means they did not have any relationship with the bank. So there was a lot of financial exclusion already. No access to digital means for a lot of them, no access to smartphones. And this was all negatively impacting their economic development, despite having access to maybe some of the resources like an analog phone or maybe even a smartphone. But if they are not tech savvy or digitally literate, it does not mean much for them. So the purpose of this research and presentation is to provide policy solutions by recommending policies to ease the adoption of digital payments for the financial inclusion of the marginalized, and also long-term sustenance of these financial payments. So the methodology that I have adopted for this specific research is policy analysis, which will help investigate the stakeholders that scrutinize the policy implementation, and also to analyze the positioning of the digital platforms and other key players contributing to infrastructure, governance, and market. Also to look at the public sector stakeholder analysis, which means the ministries, and how is government handling all of this. So I will be mostly talking about the policies that were implementing 2015 until now. And also this will help me understand the complexity of framing the policies, both shaping and iterating policies to foster knowledge economy and empowering the marginalized. So again, coming back to the unified payment interface that was launched by the government to make sure they have some control of all these big key players. So UPI was launched by the government of India, is an interbank payment system developed by one of the government bodies called National Payment Corporation of India, that has synchronized capability with any bank app, fintech, and financial companies. That means, just in easy words, if there's a banking app, UPI has to be the core system there to do any kind of financial transactions, or even if it's a third-party application similar to, let's just say, PayPal in North America, this had to be done. So in this study, I plan to undertake a case study on UPI system that merges various banking services, merchants, and also end users, and see how all of them are adopting UPI. And this all-encompassing analysis will include a glimpse of how all the interested parties negotiate the platform ecosystem, and the way particular forms of their negotiation of the platform end up changing the platform regulations. So the key stakeholders that I have reviewed in this policy analysis are, of course, the citizen, layman, the customers and merchants using it, ministries, various ministries, which includes Ministry of Electronics, Finance, Payment Corporation of India, Commerce and Industry, Ministry of Rural Development, Reserve Bank of India, which is also part of a government program, and of course, understanding the policies of foreign direct investment as well, to see how our companies like Google Pay, Amazon, Facebook are playing a role in here. After all the analysis, some of the policy solutions that I came up with is that there has to be ensuring the adoption of smartphone to foster digital payments, because everyone has to have access completely, whether it's rural, whether there are still some existing network issues. That's number one. The next one is to address the marginalized people's barriers to entry by raising awareness and incentivizing them, which means that, again, when I say raising awareness, it's more about digital literacy, tech savviness, information knowledge that is still missing sometimes. So this is creating more of a gap in people who are digitally included and those who are not digitally included, and this can further create more hurdles for those who are not included as compared to those who are understanding a gist of how to get involved and, you know, promote their businesses, use it to make money, and all of that. Especially if I talk about micro entrepreneurs or small businesses, those who are, let's say, above a certain age group, not tech savvy, are still in that old school realm of not utilizing digital payments. So again, and the last policy solution is the users encountering difficulties to choose one app over another, because there's so many financial apps, because there's a lot of third-party apps available. So based on this, I have some policy recommendations. So the first one is subsidizing the smartphone scheme for the low-income citizens in a measure to boost the scalability of these modes of mobile payments. So of course, if everyone has access to it, it will first solve the problem of digital exclusion. And once everyone is included, then perhaps, again, the next factor will also be information knowledge, digital literacy, and all those factors, but at least having access is the key to start with. The next one is a new QR merchant cashback scheme, which means there's also low-cost QR code payment acceptance methods, widely prevalent in India. But if people are giving incentives to utilize it, adopt it, then they will adopt it more. So cashback incentive scheme for micro and small merchants with newly adopted QR code. These merchants can get cashback on their first certain number of payment acceptance with a minimum transaction value of a certain amount. This can encourage merchants to adopt more payment methods. And let's just say if they do 10 first transactions, they get certain cash back on it. Maybe that will be something which will encourage them to adopt digital payments rather than just relying on the cash. The next one is the promotional scheme for customers of a new QR merchant. So the customers also can be involved in this process of a merchant with a new QR code and get incentivized for their first transaction. So here, not only the merchant, but also the customers.
Sorry to interrupt in between. I kindly request you to please close within 5 minutes.
Sure.
As because
this is
there
my
is a
last
time
slide.
limit
So
also. Yeah.
yes, I'll be closing soon. Yes. So the customers of a merchant with a new QR code can also get incentivized. So not only the merchants, but also the customers for the first transaction as a unique customer. So they will kind of encourage merchant that, okay, we want to be a part of this, and can you accept the payment with the QR code? So just so that the customer can also get incentivized. And again, this would encourage regular customers to motivate the vendors to adopt QR as a mode of payment acceptance. And then the RBI, which is the Reserve Bank of India, can also extend the barrier for standard requirements for launching a financial service application, because there are so many in the market. So they can make sure that they only let those enter within the market who have certain requirements being met, of course, with the user interface and all of that, which ensures its credibility and security in the marketplace. And this makes the product available in the marketplace more comprehensible for users with less awareness, less digital literacy, and allowing only plausible applications to be available as a possible digital payment solutions. And of course, this can have more hardcore barriers or maybe rules for the good user interface, user friendly. So even those who are not very tech savvy or digitally literate can have easy adoption of it. So here I close my presentation. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Aditi. It's a very nice presentation indeed. But can you please come to the stakeholder slide, please? Actually, as per the key stakeholders' point of view, stakeholders can come from the organizations only or from the enterprise only if they are belong to an enterprise. That is why generally, if you are talking about these policies and all, I think customers not to be a direct stakeholder over here. You may check it out with your professor also. And second point is that you have not used any references over here, as because there are some policies also earlier. Kindly use the references as well while presenting the same. And otherwise it's fine. But some statistical analysis and graphical representation, I think, may be there. Over to Professor Pable, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. I have a question regarding security. What are the security parts? Because you didn't presented anything related to security. I mean by, I don't know which slide, parts related to the QR code generation. So my question is, how the process is being done through the server and QR code generation? What is the protocol and encryption?
So the QR code is also a part of actually the UPI system. So when a merchant registers with the unified payment interface, as it's a mandatory process, they also get a QR code from generated by the UPI. However, there is a lot of data security breaches that were there at the beginning of when all of this started back in 2016, 2017. There has been a lot of resolutions to it. However, it is an ongoing issue, especially for those who are less tech savvy. And that is another hurdle in adoption because they're scared to lose money, those who are not digitally literate. And there has been a lot of instances of data breaches, and that is a common ongoing problem, I would say. However, there have been solutions also coming as we speak.
Okay.
But you're right, there should be perhaps another slide added specifically for data security. How are people experiencing it and what are the issues around it?
Mainly, I would supplement this here with some kind of slide about key exchange, how this is being done. If you need help, just write an email.
Yes.
That's all from my side. Thank you for the presentation. It was very interesting and very nice to see that ICICT is progressing this way. That's all from my side. Back to you, Sonny.
Okay, sir. Thank you, dear presenter, for this valuable and great presentation. Now, I would like to invite our first presenter, Stefano.
Hello, can you hear me now? It's good? Not yet.
Can you try to just not keep it close to the mouth, leave it like down?
No, it's good.
Stefano, try to join with your phone to the session. That's going to be much better. and play the sound of the microphone on your telephone. Can you do it? And share the screen.
Right.
I think so. Stefano is facing so I think so. He's solving the headset issue. Till then, we can allow the next presenter.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay.
I agree.
Okay. So our next presenter is. Next presenter is Gustavo, and he's going to present on holistic tweet-based sentiment analysis on the China-Taiwan conflict. Gustavo, you may please present your presentation.
Yes, going right ahead. Can you see the presentation?
Yes, we can.
All right. So welcome. We are about to present the results of our research related to holistic tweet-based sentiment analysis on the China-Taiwan conflict. Now, for our introduction, we would like to start by saying that the influence of social media has extended to almost every part of the world, with each of these different mediums serving as platforms that democratize discussion and expression of a wide variety of ideas. Public opinion can be accessed and reviewed faster than ever before, with it almost being accessible in real time. When analyzed responsibly, the opinions and postures of social media users can provide relevant insight regarding the acceptance of a variety of different topics, with one of the more interesting examples being the reactions towards world-relevant events as they are happening. The misuse of this information can also prove to be extremely dangerous, with the precedent of the 2016 Cambridge Analytica scandal being a powerful example in which user data was used irresponsibly in order to favor the campaigns of certain political candidates. For this study, our topic of interest consisted in the international tensions between Taiwan, China, and the United States regarding the sovereignty of Taiwan with respect to China that were particularly prevalent throughout the summer of 2022. Especially from the beginning of August to the end of September of the previously mentioned year. Our platform of choice was Twitter, since the information in this particular social media is spread rather quickly, with users frequently reacting to information as they share it.
Okay, so regarding methodology, throughout the different stages of our work, the following steps were followed. Well, we first gathered and pre-processed thousands of tweets related to the China-Taiwan crisis via the use of the Twitter API. And in turn, these tweets were then used to create a data set that would be used for the analysis. Next, we proceeded to identify the patterns and trends in the collected tweets, through which we gained a high-level overview of the public opinion regarding the situation. Then we performed the topic modeling via the use of the latent direct LDA in order to extract the most relevant topics discussed in the tweets, shedding light into the aspects that we consider the most relevant by the public. After that, we utilized advanced machine learning models in order to classify the sentiments expressed in the tweets, and in turn providing more depth understanding of emotional reactions towards the topics found throughout the tweets. Different classifier models were in turn used for fine-tuning, considering their performance in detecting the sentiments in tweets, hoping to ensure a quality analysis. And finally, lastly, after having acquired the sentiment values, we proceeded to perform emotion detection on the tweets using the text-to-emotion library. In this last step, we expected to complement the insight provided by the traditional sentiment analysis, using the resulting data to understand not only in a simplistic binary way, but rather in a more expanded understanding of what we were seeing.
Now, regarding the data, by using the Twitter API, we were able to collect around 5,809 tweets regarding the international tensions. This was done in order to get a sizable number of tweets that, when analyzed, would help to evaluate the perception of this particular event throughout the social network. The tweets were gathered using specific hashtags such as China, Taiwan, and war. Some of the expected insights included information provided by news outlet accounts, official state accounts, and information related to political figures such as President Joe Biden, President Xi Jinping, and Taiwanese President Tsai Ing-wen. We complemented our gathered tweets with the Go Emotion dataset by Google, which we in turn used in order to fine-tune a multi-level Roberto model to classify the emotions found in the tweets as either positive, negative, or neutral. The analysis results were in turn complemented with an emotion detection performed via the use of text-to-emotion.
Okay, so regarding the raw data and the results. So throughout the different stages of our research, we encounter data-based insights that could be considered valuable information, and we will proceed to present the results of performing an analysis on the raw tweet dataset. First, we can appreciate the presence of different hashtags related to the situation, such as the countries involved, as in China, Taiwan, and the US. Other concurrent international tensions were also apparently present in the discussion, as can be inferred when looking at the hashtags such as Russia and Ukraine. The names of political figures also appear to be frequently mentioned in the form of Biden, Putin, Pelosi, as well as Keating, referring to an ex-Australian prime minister who recently expressed his composure regarding the situation. The Chinese Communist Party is also present as CCP, and lastly, we can see that some of the Twitter-based media outlets in the hashtag the Mahatma way. And a word cloud was also produced in order to identify the most common words throughout the text in the tweets. As you can see there, the size of the word is proportional to the amounts of time it appeared in the dataset. And words such as Taiwan, China, and America make their expected appearance. As we can also see some of the important insights as well, such as the word chip, which has to do with the role that Taiwan has as one of the primary electronic producing countries in the world. And we can also see that some of the concerns about the world war or proxy war with the name of the Chinese Prime Minister Xi Jinping also being present in the cloud, with some other interesting terms being thrown in the mix, as we already said, with NATO, Russia, and Ukraine also being present. So yeah, these were the most common associated words of people that were contributing to the discussion in Twitter. And well, this is what we saw in the most general sense.
After having performed this raw data exploration, we then went ahead and proceeded to perform certain pre-processing tasks, such as lowercase casting, stop word removal, and lemmatization on our data, in order to clean and standardize it as much as possible, while also allowing the words to retain their intended part of speech and meaning. Having done the pre-processing, we proceeded to perform LDA in order to estimate possible topics throughout the gathered tweets, considering the historical context when interpreting the topics. The LDA analysis produced 6 possible topics, which were interpreted as follows. Topic 1 presents suspective or doubtful thoughts about a possible invasion of Taiwan by China. Topic 2 relates to the situation of major international actors such as Russia and Ukraine. Topic 3 regards local tensions of a possible civil war. Topic 4 related to military concerns, since words like NATO and military are also involved. Topic 5 focuses mostly in the relationship between Taiwan and the neighboring countries. And topic 6 seems to have keywords related to the One China policy, which is the policy that mainland China has of considering Taiwan as a part of the Chinese country, while Taiwan considers itself independent.
Yeah. So next, we would like to present in the findings regarding the sentiments frequency after having passed the data through the tweetball Roberta, available in the TensorFlow library of models and being fine-tuned to work especially on tweets. It is easy to see that the most prevalent feeling in the tweets was a neutral feeling, followed by a prominent amount of negative tweets, and lastly, a pretty small positive presence of positive tweets. And well, I would say that the reason as to why there were so many neutral comments has to do with the fact that most of the people that commented on the conflict per se were not involved in it. So it's very easy for someone to give like an unbiased opinion that lacks emotions when one is not directly affected by the effects of a conflict in its most direct consequences.
Next, we can see the results of performing the text-to-emotion analysis, which in turn returned 5 different labels regarding the emotion behind the text. We can see text such as happy, angry, surprised, sad, and fear. And according to our results, there was a pretty expected presence of high amounts of fear, as well as sadness, and a pretty surprising high amount of happiness, which we will proceed to analyze in our discussion.
Okay, so the Robertson model showed a disproportionate amount of negative perception when compared to the positive interpretation of the events according to the tweet data. However, neutrality was, as I said, the most prominent sentiment exhibited by the data that we extracted from the API, thus shedding light onto the idea that most of the opinions were were expressed by neutral newsletters. And Gustavo was going to explain the reason as to why we found disparities that might seem contradictory, but to our understanding weren't that much.
Sorry to interrupt you, but you have last 2 minutes, sir.
Yes, we are almost finished. So regarding the emotions that we found, it can be said that happiness was a pretty unexpected insight, but it is not contradicting the findings, since we consider that it adds evidence into the feeling of nervousness that comes associated with fear, which was also a pretty prevalent feeling throughout the data. And surprisingly, anger was not as prominent as we expected, but it probably has to do with the fact that many of the tweets were produced by neutral contributors, as my partner Eduardo just mentioned. Lastly, for our conclusions, we would like to consider that the insight provided by both the raw data and classification, we were able to get a better understanding of how social media perceives and reacts to worldwide events. And for the case of the tensions between China and Taiwan, we observed a mostly neutral polarity from the Roberta sentiment analysis, while detecting mostly here via text emotion. Lastly, here our reference. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your nice presentation. I just want to know that how you have classified the tweets as it is positive or negative. How you have done it?
I'm sorry, I didn't realize that I was muted. Did you hear the last part or not?
I just want to know, how do you classify the tweets
Yes.
as positive and negative? That's it.
Yes. All right. So we classified them by taking into consideration the output done by the
As
tweet
because
eval.
you have not
model.
mentioned about any overall score and all. That's why I'm asking.
All right. Yes. We first gathered the tweets, then we passed them through pre-trained models, such as the tweet eval Roberta model. And then in turn, we use that as a form of labeling to then complement our dataset and start doing our studies and conclusions over those first analysis, complementing them with the models that we use.
Okay. But the dataset information is not there in that slide. You have not mentioned. And the last question is that you have used Roberta, it's fine. What is the basic difference between that traditional dataset or traditional information of BART and that Roberta? What is the basic difference between it? Why
I'm
you
sorry,
have
can you
used
repeat the question?
this Roberta?
Between Bert and Roberta, I'm sorry, I understood Bart.
I'm writing over here. You may please check this where it will be free. Over to Pavles, please. Thank you, Professor.
Okay. My question is, what were the hardware in place used for training these models? What is the hardware? Is it on the cloud or on your machine?
Yes, it
How
was on the
you did the
cloud.
training?
We use Google Colab in order to perform the experiments, and we use the EPUs provided by Google Colab.
Okay, something to supplement would be nice that you in the future add information what is used, and also what were the used requirements so that everyone can repeat your results. And also it
Alright.
would be nice to add some kind of a diagram, because currently I couldn't understand how did you manage to connect all the dots between this, because you're just showing the results in the end. And it's very hard to know if this is your results or something which you have already mentioned from the later work. Just this
Okay.
to mention. So
Alright.
this is the first question. Second question is, how long did you manage to do these training models? 1 day, 2 days? How it took long?
Well, it
Time
took several
period, time
days
period
actually.
for
Time
training. How
period.
much? Sorry.
Oh, for training, it
Mhm.
it took around 2 days or 1 day. Yes.
That would be nice to mention. That's all from my side.
Okay.
Back to you, Sunny.
Okay. Thank you, dear presenter, for your presentation. I think Stefano is here, and maybe
Thank you,
he
Sergio and
have solved
Gustavo.
the
Very good.
issue.
Thank you very much.
Stefano, I think I hope you have solved your issue.
Yeah, I hope true. It's good now. Not yet.
It's better, a
Uh,
little bit better. So just move it from the screen. Let's try. I don't know what you say, Sunny.
Thank you.
No worries, sir. He can start with the presentation.
Third time is the charm.
Right.
Okay, you can see my presentation, right?
No, it's like blurry lines. What happened to your PC?
I don't know. My PC is tricking me today. Now the problem is with the image, right?
Yes. We need to move to the
No
next
worries.
PPT.
I think Harsh, I think we can take this presentation later as because he's facing many issues and we are wasting the time in between.
I agree.
Thank
Okay. Okay.
Okay, sir. Okay. Okay, so now I would like to invite our next presenter, Mata, and she's going to be presenting on Safe ComNet, safer artisanal fishing integrating a community network.
Yes, hello. Let me share my screen.
Yes, please.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Fatoumata Awayandidu. I am PhD student at École Supérieure Polytechnique of Cheikh Anta Diop University in Dakar. I'm glad to be part in ICICT 2023. My paper is titled Safe ComNet, a safer artisanal fishing, integrating a community network. For the presentation, we will follow these points. At first, we will address the introduction. Then we move on the proposal with the architecture and the communication model. In section 4, we provide a testbed and a series of simulations to evaluate the proposed algorithm, and the final conclusions are drawn in section 5. For the context, like many maritime countries, Senegal, fishing plays an important economic role in Senegal. Senegalese seas are among the most fished in the world, and Senegal is also leader in the sub-region with 72% of the current fleet of UMOR countries and a motorization rate of 85%. However, these last years, artisanal fishing has become offshore, more than 10 kilometers from the coast due to the scarcity of resources. Fishing activities are carried out in wide areas, and there is no network operators in wide areas, and fishermen have no means for sharing information. This problem of safety at sea makes the social and human conditions difficult, with more than 100 deaths per year. With SafeComNet, we want to offer a dedicated geolocation and communication system. The idea is to set up a very long-range ad hoc network for sharing information like position, messages, alerts, weather information. In SafeComNet context, we don't have central equipment to organize all the nodes. Therefore, we proposed a location update algorithm which enables each node to know the position of its neighbor. Here we have the SafeComNet architecture and its components. At first, we have the embedded device, which is the heart of the system. This onboard device has two interfaces, a Wi-Fi interfaces, which is compatible with all type of smartphone, and a LoRa interface. Another element is the base stations. The base stations are located on the coast, and they have two connections, a LoRa connection and an internet connection for the transfer of information in the server. The server is also an important element in the architecture because there is a database which is created in the server, and all the information coming from the pirogues are saved in the server. We defined 4 different levels of security. We have the green security level. In this situation, the onboard device is both connected to at least one pirogue and one base station. We have the yellow security level. In this case, the pirogue is only connected to one pirogue. For the orange security level, the onboard device is connected only to a base station. And finally, we have the red security level. In this case, the pirogue has no connection. For the communication model, we choose a backoff algorithm to allow nodes to send their location. At first, when the device is turned on, it chooses a backoff and wait for the timer before updating its own location and send it in the network. After that, it waits until the next location update. This process is repeated for all new location update broadcasts. For the reception of the location update, the device is always in listening mode. If it receives a new location, it saves it, and if it is otherwise, it keeps listening. In LoRa network, there are important parameters to take into account beyond the access technique. These are the time on air, the spreading factor, and the bandwidth. Therefore, we achieve an experimental and a virtual test bench in order to determine the suitable time on air for a certain number of boxes in the network, and consequently choose the appropriate location update period. For the experimental test bench, we choose 3 location update times and 3 modes. The modes are combination of time on air, spreading factor, and bandwidth. Here is a picture illustrating the experimental test bench with a base station and 2 pirogues. The location update success rate is presented in this figure. We have, following the test, we can note that result obtained with 120 seconds are better than those for 30 and 50. Because with if the higher the location update time is, the success rate increases. For the mod 4, we see also that the mod 9 is better than the mod 4 and 5. Being limited by the number of devices, we continued the test in a virtual way, with always the backoff technique. Here we have the transmission success rate as a function of the location update time. As you can see, we have more devices. The number of devices varies from 10 to 100. This is for the mod 4. Here we have the mod 5 and the mod 9. Following the result, we can note that for a fixed location update time, for example, here 100, as the number of nodes increases, the success rate decreases. And for a fixed node, number of nodes, for example, 100, the more the location update time increases, the more the success rate increases. And we know that in a situation of high density population, using a low spreading factor is the best solution. However, in a situation of very low density, using a high spreading factor allows a better use of resources. To conclude, LoRa technology is increasingly used in the deployment of other communication network in disaster areas, wide areas, and agricultural environments to have very large and robust coverage. In our case, we propose a long-range other communication network named SafeComNet and adapted to the artisanal fishing in Senegal. A located update algorithm based on the back of which enables each node to know the position of its neighbor is proposed. The test benches show that depending on the number of nodes in the network, the LoRa parameters can be chosen to have a good transmission successfully. Thank you for listening.
It's a very nice presentation. I just want to know the basic difference between this LoRa and Wi-Fi.
Okay, LoRa is used, Wi-Fi we use, I can say that Wi-Fi we use it in our house for another.
And I think the LoRa,
Than LoRa.
yeah.
LoRa is more used for areas where there is no network operator. For example, in white areas at sea, we don't have any network operator. And in some areas in Senegal, for example, in the Ferlo, we don't have network operators in some areas. And that's why we use LoRa technologies to allow the population.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for a nice presentation. Professor Pavle, is there any question from your side? Or should we move to the next
short question. Can be this applied in IoT and also automobile industry, cars? How would you apply this, what you proposed here?
I don't hear you well.
I'm saying how this can be applied in IoT in automotive industry, how you would connect these dots together, the nodes.
Okay, the nodes have two connection, as I said. They have Wi-Fi connection just to communicate with the smartphone of the fisherman, for example, in our case, and a LoRa interface to the communication between two nodes, and it helps to share the information between nodes and around the network.
Okay, thank you. Very good presentation. Very interesting.
Thank you.
Okay, so thank you, dear presenter, for your valuable presentation. Now moving for our next presenter. Our next presenter is Kwangil Lee, and he's going to present on study on simulation-based autonomous ship test and evolution.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me well?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Professor, you are nicely audible.
Okay. Okay, the title of my talk is Study on Simulation-Based Autonomous Ship Test and Evaluation. So Mainly my talk is focused on how to test autonomous ship. So there's some background, system overview, and test method and scenarios, analysis and evaluation, and the conclusion will be followed. The digitalization in the maritime industry is the main issues. For this digitalization, in navigation, smart ship, and autonomous unmanned ship, shipping 4.0 and smart port is introduced. So MAS is an autonomous ship, accelerates the digitalization and automation in the maritime industry. So MAS is a part of the total maritime shipping industry. So for the automation, MAS should deliver the products from one port to the other port automatically. So seamless maritime data connectivity is essential, and then autonomous ship will take part or important role for that. So for this, intelligent maritime ITS becomes more important. So how the issue is how we provide the seamless maritime data connectivity. So all maritime service shall be automated and streamlined with any human interruptions. All systems and devices can be operated and monitored by digitalization, and device and system shall be integrated and interoperated. That's the main issues for the automation, especially for autonomous ship. So a lot of research projects are ongoing in the maritime industry. So many projects are doing for that. To realize the MAS, the IMO discussed start the discussion of how to implement MAS technology in the international shipping. So MAS, the IMO decided to develop a regulating scoping exercise, and then they decide to develop some terminology and definitions, and then some guidelines, and then some regulatory works are doing at this moment. So at this moment, the regulating scoping exercise are finalized, and then they started discussing about MAS code regulation to implement MAS. That is under developing at this moment. So to operate the MAS, the performance standards need to be provided, and then especially for seamless maritime data connectivity, those kinds of services shall be provided under the MAS code. This one is okay. The issue is, how to provide safe autonomous ship, because at this moment, the MAS is not testing, not really implemented in full scale. So the most important issue is how we guarantee the safety and security about the MAS ship. So our proposal is a simulation-based evaluation system for autonomous system. It shall be very important issue. So our work is consists of two parts: simulation frameworks and then evaluation scenarios. How to simulation framework is the basic framework to evaluate a lot of various autonomous MAS technology. So that is consists of autonomous navigation framework and standard interface and scalable and plug and play modules. For evaluation scenarios, we identify on the navigation scale, because for human purpose, we have different levels of the seafarers. So how to identify navigation skills of the autonomous ship, and then what is the realistic, and how to provide a very extended actual scenarios, and then how to evaluate the results. Those kind of issues need to be discussed. So this is our workflow decision on the evaluation items, because the autonomous system to be evaluated is different modules. So what kinds of items need to be tested? So we need to make a decision. So based on that, we need to select a test sheet, and then we choose the developed scenarios, and then develop the evaluation software. So based on those one, we test with the simulation, and then based on the experimental results, we analysis and evaluate the autonomous system. This is the basic work process we are considering. So this is the simple system overview. So we based on the Kongsberg simulator, we provide a DIS interface, and then for the standard interface, we use the ICICT 1162 interface standard. So using this one, so autonomous navigation system is connected to our simulation framework. This one is evaluated with the Kongsberg simulator. So to collect all the information, we are using the DIS packet collector. So this is the basic structure for the system. So those information, all data information shall be collected and stored in the MariaDB, and that is used for the future analysis and future analysis. So also we developed the DIS analyzer. So autonomous, all the DIS package shall be analyzed based on with the this analyzer. This is the items for the evaluation. So all the evaluation items this is the listed the evaluation items. So with these items, all the performance of the autonomous navigation system is evaluated and tested. For the evaluation scenarios, we have 3 different scenarios: course keeping and course changing and collision avoidance scenarios. So navigation area we are considering is Busan and Ulsan areas, and then Busan and Ulsan, and Mokpo and Pyeongtaek and Incheon, Yeosu. This is the domestic areas, actual route areas. So based on that, we define the autonomous navigation level. So basic level, intermediate level, expert level. So based on the level, we consist of different scenarios. So best-selling count and course changes, and best-selling count course navigating base neighboring vessel, how many vessels are neighboring, and then what kinds of difficulty levels they have. Based on that, we evaluated some scenarios. So we have for the basic level, we are using the container ship, and we developed the 2 scenarios, and 3 different obstacles are used. For the intermediate level, we developed the 5 scenarios, 6 scenarios, and then using the different types of vessels we used. And for the export level, we developed the 2 scenarios, and then many different types of vessels.
Last 2 minutes.
Okay, so based on that, we evaluate like such as our pilot evaluation scenarios that is used for the actual evaluation. Also, this information is connected to EMSN, that is a scalable European maritime simulation network. So we can interact with many different scenarios and cooperate with other simulators. So that's based on that, we collected all the information, and then based on that, we evaluate all this information. So basically, navigation system evaluation is essential for the mass. And then for this evaluation, simulation-based performance analysis for the mass system is very important. So for this, we propose DIS-based autonomous navigation system, and then classify and develop autonomous navigation service scenarios. And then, in addition to our current work, we need to work for fully integrated with AMS networks, and then we need to develop more videos and extensive analysis and evaluation, since this is our initial work. That's it. Any comments or
Yeah,
questions?
Professor Lee, it's a very nice presentation indeed. You have used the Carlsbad simulator. It's very good for the autonomous system. But there are some other simulators also, like Carla and all. Why you have only used this simulator? Just a question, just a query on.
Because the Kongsberg simulator is the most common simulator in the maritime industry. That's the reason we are using this kind of simulator, more reliable, and then more reliable kind of.
Okay, thank
in
you.
Industry circle here.
Though this is not my research part, that is why I can't query more on that. I kindly move to Professor Pable, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would say I have a question. How would you connect this simulator to microservices in order to provide the tests to scale the solution on bigger, let's say, information scale which you have currently in place? To automate to perform the tests in microservices, for example.
Well, so that is they are to use need to use the standard interface like a DIS, and then in the maritime industry are using the common interface standards like ICICT 1162. So based on those standard interface, they can connect to our simulation frame.
Okay, so that means that it's possible to connect it between these, let's say that you have some kind of CI/CD pipeline together and that you can provide this generally through the feedback of some kind of dashboard. It's possible.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, I can say that I very like the part of autonomous vehicles in this area for the ships. Very good presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you, dear presenter, for your valuable presentation. Now I'd like to invite our next presenter. Next presenter is Marco Pap, and he's going to present on the alleged unregulation AI use in Brazil, the impact assessment as a solution.
Yeah, thank you. Can you hear me well?
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
All right, so I'm going to present. All right, well, that's okay. I'm not going to share it. It was just a cover. So I may only speak to you. Well, greetings to all. I may share that it is a genuine privilege to be heard by you all. And well, briefly introducing myself, my name is Marco Pap, and I'm a law student at the University of São Paulo, Brazil. And this paper that I'm privileged to present to you is part of a research work that I have been developing since last August, being thoroughly instructed by my dear professor, Cristina Godoy Bernardo de Oliveira, who is thankfully is here with us. And as you may see, first of all, I will give you an overview of the thematic pertinence that led us to prepare a paper with the scope of discussing the Brazilian attempt to regulate the use of AI in national territory. Thus, we will try to solve a regulation riddle, if we may call it that. 2 years after the approval of the Brazilian General Law for Data Protection, the LGPD, a first attempt to propose a regulatory framework to seek to regulate the growing use of AI-powered technologies.
Sorry, Marco. Sorry to interrupt in between. Actually, Springer will ask us for the video presentation and also the PPT mode. So it's better you please send the PPT to us or send the PPT to the organizing team or Harsh, Sony, And Harsh, on behalf of Marco, you please share the screen so that the PPT can be presented also at the same time.
Sure, sure. Okay, sir.
Oh,
Hope, Marco, you
all
have
right.
understood the point.
Yeah. How can I send it to you? You mean
You have the
after the
conference email
presentation?
ID, I think so.
You can send over there. Otherwise, you can send here also, as per your choice.
You have only one slide. I think so.
All right, perfect. So may I move along?
Yes, you can.
So again, first of all, I will try to give you an overview of the thematic pertinence, okay, that led us to prepare a paper with the scope of discussing the Brazilian attempt to regulate the use of AI in the national territory. Thus, we will try to solve a regulation riddle, if we may call it. 2 years after the approval of the Brazilian General Law for Data Protection, the LGPD, a first attempt to propose a regulatory framework to regulate the growing use of AI-powered technologies in the country emerged in the Brazilian Parliament, the Bill 21 from 2020. And since then, many other attempts have emerged. But in the months when Christina and I wrote this paper, this bill was the most established legislative proposal under discussion in the Brazilian Parliament. So the problem that Christina and I seek to develop in this paper begins with the alleged Brazilian framework for the development and use of AI. And by AI, I mean artificial intelligence, in which we address the gaps that the bills are presenting and the consequences of a hastily elaborated regulation without proper contextualization with the Brazilian reality. And these gaps are like subjective restrictions on civil responsibility regime, which is noticeable since the text of the law does not specify the general responsibility regime, whether it would be objective or subjective, since in the Brazilian legal system, it is already foreseen that in case of omission, the subjective civil responsibility prevails, for example. And other gaps seem are questionable semantic definitions of some basic concepts of AI systems, which were as the following ones: the expression AI systems, which has been controversially conceptualized by assuming that the end goals of AI would always be predetermined by human action, when in fact, machine learning or deep learning techniques are capable of prediction with a certain autonomy, adjusting their end goals in ways that even their programmers did not anticipate. Thus, profiling systems, machine learning and deep learning would be immediately disqualified from the concept of AI. And that would be an absurd technical inconsistency, right? So yet, other inconsistent definitions were also observed in the use of expressions such as democratic values, non-discrimination, welfare, and even in the trivialized use of words like ethics and benefits. After all, these are expressions that are subject to relativism if used carelessly in a legal text. So now I believe that the riddle arising from this analysis is how to regulate without regulation. Well, in fact, there's no need to actually regulate, as it would not be reasonable, nor would it be lawful or legitimate. It is only necessary to implement instruments already provided by law to prevent violations as much as possible until a multi-stakeholder legislation is passed by Parliament and can effectively drive the AI market safely and profitably, right? So from our perspective, that is where the preventive action of tools already used as evaluation measures comes in. An impact assessment is a tool for preventive management that should be used whenever personal data processing offers a high risk level, whether there's regulation or not. And in this regard, the Brazilian legislation has already adapted the assessment created by the European authorities in a manner equivalent to the Data Protection Impact Assessment, or the DPIA in its acronym. And however, despite the provision of this assessment, the LGPD does not have the prerogative to define the procedures for the preparation of the impact assessment for the use of AI, even though its Article 20 provides for the possibility of auditing decisions resulting from automated processing of personal data, which in turn is not the same thing as an artificial intelligence impact assessment, and therefore should not be treated as equal on any level, except for their similar purpose. And it is necessary, therefore, to differentiate the impact assessment foreseen in the LGPD from the one that should be foreseen in an eventual regulation of the use of AI. The market already uses today, for example, the algorithm impact assessment, which is a mere questionnaire in which the results will only demonstrate the ability to answer the questions and nothing more. However, it is expected that this evaluation will soon also evolve to questions about the social impact on data subjects. But for now, we may stick to the AI impact assessment. And just by disclaimer, this is a merely generic name to conceptualize an impact evaluation focused exclusively on AI-powered software, okay? Thus, what we have concluded in our paper from this research is that in order to guarantee the right of the data subject to understand the logic of the decision-making process and the meaning of the intended consequences, this new regulation on the use of AI should put the burden of proof on the controller to demonstrate the legitimacy of the fully automated processing by AI systems. And it will be up to the controller to demonstrate not only the sources and ways of collection of personal data, but also some key issues. Therefore, regardless of the naming this impact assessment we will eventually receive, as opposed to what is sought in a data process impact assessment, this document shall contain some prompted key questions, including like the general lines of programming of the algorithms and their objectives, explanations on the development of these algorithms, the possibility of the algorithm modifying its own code without human intervention, the relevant categories of profiles and their criteria, the outputs of the decision-making process and their respective possibilities for assessing suitability and accuracy, the feedback mechanisms, the level of human intervention, and finally, the main impacts on the data subjects and the respective risk mitigation measures. So finally, I think we can say that this will be the point of greatest attention for the benefits it will bring to regulatory development, because impact assessments will not only bring greater security for data subjects who have their information processed in an automated way, but will also enable entire databases to be filled with detailed analysis. Thus, this analysis will provide a solid framework on how various types of AI systems architectures have been used by individuals or companies for all kinds of purposes, attributed not only to by private actors, but also by public policy and other state actions. To an extent, we may argue that the implementation of impact assessments is beneficial both to mitigate risks and to better learn how each type of personal data processing works, whether it's non-AI or AI-powered software, such as to design different impact assessments, therefore, should persist and above all, be put into practice by the market enforced by law. And I think this concludes my speech. I thank you all for listening. Then I believe I can now answer any questions or comments you may have.
Nice presentation. Actually, the thing is that, Marco, you are having only one slide, and we have to send the Springer also the slides presentation and the recording as well. I kindly request you to please send minimum 10 slides within 2 to 3 days to the organizing team, so that if Springer will ask, we can send them the necessary information along with the PPT as well. Hope you have understand our points. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. I may do it as soon as possible.
Do we have any question for the presenter?
Professor Pable, any query, please?
Any questions? I would say how this revolves, for example, in other governments, how you connect AI with other governments. Do you have any similar cases like in Brazil that is trying to make regulations in AI?
Actually, it's a pretty good and interesting question. I think that does not apply to the scope of our paper because we were not trying to comparate Brazilian legislation with European legislation, but it sure indeed we may discuss this in the future paper, I guess, because different experiences with each government is pretty unique and almost it's a secret experience. They don't share that much. Here in Brazil, for example, they don't give us information about their implementations of AI, like in the public transport lines with facial recognition, for example. So I think that's it.
Okay, thank you. Very good presentation. Back to you, Sunny.
Thank you.
Sir, Mohammed Yassin. Mohammed Yassin, you can present your paper now.
Yes. Can you hear me? Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I'm sharing the screen now.
Visible.
Just a minute, why it is like that. Mhm. Okay. First of all, thank you for having me with you. I supposed to present on virtual room 6C or C6, but I lost the connection. So thank you for having me with you. My study is Optimize One Max Problem by PSO and CSA. My name is Mohammed Yassin. I'm from Iraq. So let's move on. In this presentation, we will see what is the optimization and how it was developed to optimize problems with the experimental results, and also I will analyze these results. For table materials, first of all, we have the concept of optimization and one max problem. After that, we will see the algorithms were used. In the third section, the materials were used to evaluate these algorithms. In the fourth and fifth sections, the methodological parts and results analysis. And at the end of this session, discussion and conclusion. Introduction. Let's see what is the concept of optimization and one max problem. The concept of optimization means the optimal solution. And the optimal solution means in a mathematical concepts, computer science, and finance is to find the best solution out of all possible solutions. So the optimization means that we have several solutions, and among them, we need to choose the best solution for the problem. This is the meaning of optimization. The type of optimization problem is determined by whether the variables are continuous or discrete. This from the continuous or discrete we can know and contain the optimization problem. One max problem is a simple optimization problem. We are about to solving it. The problem aims to maximize the number of ones in a visible solution X. So X can be either 0 or 1. From that, we can see that the type of optimization is a discrete. Because as I said before, the discrete and continuous is a type of optimization. Now we can say that optimization problem we are about to solving it is a discrete because it contains 0 or 1. Algorithms were used to solve the problem. As I mentioned before, we must choose the best solution among two or more lists and make a comparison between them to find out which one is a better solution. These two algorithms, the first one PSO, particle swarm optimization algorithm, and the second one is CSA, cross search algorithm. These algorithms work by a computing manner driven, so it works by the same way, by the intelligence collective behavior of some animals such as flags, birds, fish, ants, and the flags of crows. So let's see practically how it works. First of all, the PSO. Historical information about it, it's introduced in 1995. It's a population-based that is driven by intelligence collective behavior, as I said, of some animals like ants. It is the nearest one. It also enhances an issue by iteratively attempting to raise the quality of possible solutions. So how it's work according to this diagram, it generates positions, an item in positions inside some space, and the current position moving from P best, and G best. So it generate the first one, P best represent the best experience position. The second position represent G best is the best particle position. So after that, PSO generating a new item in current position and comparing it with the P best position. If it is bigger than it will replace it with it. Otherwise, we'll move to the new position until finishing all position inside our space and collecting the data. This for PSO, in short. In short, the cross search algorithm, as I said, it works in the same way of optical particle swarm, collecting data, but it is a more modern one. It's a 20, the PSO, it is an oldest one. So it is a new methoristic optimization method that mimics the cognitive behavior of crow swarms. So we can say that the cross search algorithm works depending on the flight step length of a crow, which is F1 represents, will affect the search ability of the algorithm. So if the value is too large, it tends to the search globally, otherwise is local optimum. So the crow move on from this position to the new position, adding its item depending on the step length of a crow. If it is bigger, so the crow will move after the crow J to the next position, and the next position will be far from the first one. Unlike if the F1 or the step length of a crow is smaller than one, so the next position will be small, will be local. Let's see the material used. The material used to evaluate these two algorithms result is best, which means the best value has been generated. The mean and median, it is average of these data, the number generated, and the worst is the worst data, worst number has been generated. And also we have sigmoid function, standard deviation, also we have statistical analysis using Wilcoxon. All of these material have been used to evaluate the performance of these two algorithms. We have note that the cost reduction and maximizing productivity and efficiency are the most typically objectives of our study. The practical aspects have proven that, first of all, we were using these two algorithms and executed 3 times with job evaluation count. This is space, generating data between upper bound 1 and lower bound -1. The solution of the problem has 3 dimensions. Dimension 1, 100, 500, and 1000. The execution architecture in each execution cycle, which represent 30 times, random numbers were generated depending on the mentioned dimension range between -1 and 1. So all of numbers will generate between -1 and 1. Depending on the sigmoid, which I mentioned before, if sigmoid x is bigger than 0.1, then it becomes 1. Otherwise, the data, the number will be 0, depending on sigmoid function. So, depending on sigmoid function, the output value is made either 1 or 0, and the value combined with the range are summed for each cycle, depending on these dimensions. Let's see the methodological results for PSO and CSA. After execution, 30 times for every dimension, the data has been concluded, the data has been measured, generated. We can see from the dimension 100 for PSO and CSA, the CSA outperformed the result of PSO. For the dimension 100, we can see that the blue line represents PSO. The number has been generated 30 times. It is less than the numbers has been generated with CSA. It was the middle of 50. Unlike the CSA values, it was bigger than PSO. It's near from 100. The same for the second dimension, PSO and CSA. We can comparing between them. The data, the value which generated for PSO was less than 300. Unlike the CSA, data was bigger than 300. It is near from the dimension. The third dimension is the same. The green line represents the CSA output. The numbers has been generated is near from 600, unlike the PSO generated is near from 500. We can say it found that the CSA has higher and more accurate values than PSO algorithm for the 3 dimensions. We can say that the optimization using CSA algorithm has better results. Also, let's see about the criteria. As I said, we have 6 materials: best, mean, median, worst, standard deviation, and Wilcoxon. After generating the data, the numbers, and collecting all of these numbers, we find out that the best was 60. The best 60 for the PSO, but the dimension 100 for the CSA, the best number generated before. Also for 51 for PSO, but 78 for CSA. The worst number has been generated for PSO in dimension 1.
Sorry to interrupt you, sir, but you have last 2 minutes.
The worst number has been generated. Yes, 73. It is the same for worst standard deviation. From that, we can see that the standard deviation is a large number in PSO, unlike the standard deviation in CSA. It has a little small. So it has been concluded that the value of the algorithm CSA are less scattered than PSO because of it has a small standard deviation. We can say the using of CSA algorithm for one max problem optimization produced a super outcomes, because the value of CSA algorithm are more uniform than those of PSO method. The CSA algorithm's evaluation criteria table is superior than the PSO. That's all. The CSA algorithm outperformed PSO value by 200% for each cycle, 100, 500, and 1000 dimension. Thank you for everything. Any question, I'm ready.
Professor Pavli, you may ask the question. No question from my side.
Okay, my question from my side would be, how would you apply these algorithms, for example, in detecting some attacks in your EOT systems, or let's say you have specified system which is using some kind of network systems? Can this be applied, which you are saying here on your presentation?
The optimization, it is about the best solution or best way. So if we are saying about network, I'm not sure if it is work, but we can say about the traffic jam or something like that, the traffic things, for finding the best way to arrive to your work, to arrive to anything else. Also, maybe for networking, if we are seeking for best way to arrive the internet to getting the best service, we can say from these two algorithms, which is one is better, and we can find out what the best way to get the service, the faster time, the faster way for optimization.
Okay, very good. So that means that we are still safe for now.
Thank you so much.
I
Is
can
there
say
any
just that
question?
it was very nice presentation. I liked it very much with visual elements, and I believe that this should be maybe supplemented with some kind of regression and propositions like the theory and the practice, how you manage to connect these dots together with the hardware and everything which we're discussing now.
Yes, so is there any procedure I must do because I missed my session, my scheduled time? Should I inbox someone or it is done for me? Because I missed my session.
Yes, you can just write us the mail that you have missed the session and you have present your paper in the 7C session. Okay.
So for the public email?
Yes, we are. Do you have our conference email ID, right?
I don't know, but I have just one email
You
for
may
the
provide the
public.
email
No
ID
worries.
on
I'll
chat
write it to
box.
in the chat box. You can copy it and you can write us
Yes.
the mail. Okay.
Yes, please. This is your email, you mean?
Yes, I will share our email in chat box.
Okay, please.
Okay.
That will be all from my side. And also we have one more participant which we had the problem with. It was like Stefano. Only what will we do with the Stefano presentation because he didn't manage to present?
Yes, if he is ready, then you can allow him.
Okay.
I think you can hear me now. It's
Speak
good
to
now.
hear you again.
Oh, Jesus, it's very
Welcome.
good. It's
This
a
is good.
relief. This
Very
is really
good.
good. Thank you, my wife. She's home now and lent me the computer.
If my
So I
colleague
will.
professor allows it, can he present?
Yeah, you
Oh.
can present.
Oh,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you,
That's
sir. Thank you.
Stefano, the floor is yours if Sonny is also agreeing with this.
Okay.
Yes,
I
sir,
will.
we can.
Okay.
You can see, right?
Yes, we can see.
Oh, okay. I think it's good. So I'm really sorry, all of you. I apologize. Thank you for letting me make the presentation. I hope I can give you a good one now. So my name
And
is Steph.
sorry, Stefano. But please try to conclude in less time.
Okay, I will. So the title is Digital Technologies, Agency in Mini-Making, a Theoretical Conceptualization by me, Stefano, and Caroline Schneider. I'm from Brazil, she's from Sweden. So a very brief introduction. We have been doing some analysis between digital education and society for a few years, and we decided to do a conceptualization. Our main concern is about the rapid adoption and use of digital technologies, and we need to think about it in a critical way, using Paulo Freire's critical pedagogy. We have the background of the Interest of Technologies Acts in the regulation of social practice. We're talking about Bruno Latour here. And we think conceptualizations are important to embrace the current complex digital technologies, create for mini-making in social practice, such as schools. So we are worried about education here. So being very fast, our research proposal is a conceptualization of how technologies come to regulate mini-maker social, political, and economic life. We hope for becoming empirical explorations on digital technologies in education. We have 4 concepts that we bring together: calculation center, platform leadership, immaterial labor, and mindshare that I will explain the next slide. On this article, we apply this conceptualization of ours on education with digital technologies, especially internet browsing, social media, and file hosting, and the democratization of the internet space. So the purpose contributes to scientific research and educational practice on how to make citizens vigilant and proactive in relation to the democratization of power relations in the socio-technical structure of the internet space. As I said, we associate Paulo Freire's critical pedagogy and Bruno Latour's actor-nectar theory, as we did before in 2 articles, and now we are going ahead. So I will just jump on this because I have lack of time. This is just an introduction. I will go straight to the theoretical background, the concepts, how we bring them together, and how we think the conceptualization. So we are concerned about digital education and society, how to be critical, proactive in democratization of the internet space. So we bring the calculation center concept of Latour, which is nodes in a network that are so dense that they make certain actants obligatory passage points for the society. These actants hold a privileged position of power since their interests must be considered by the meaning makers in their technology use. We're talking about education that bring technology to the classroom. Platform leadership from Gower and Guzmano. We are talking about companies that develop platform technologies, the ones necessary for other companies to develop their technologies, and then establish themselves in calculation center positions. So they hold power. We are talking about the big techs especially. Also Mindshare, we take from Hepburn, the update he did from Stephenson. And Hepburn thinks that educational projects that use technologies but do not reflect critically about their socio-technical agencies run the risk or has the risk of turning this technology into natural tools. The effect of it is to reduce students to problem solvers through technologies rather than critics of how technologies affect their meaning makings and their understandings of society. They become more like soldiers of solving problems by some technologies and not think about it. And we have also the immaterial labor concept from Lazzarato and Negri that is a post for this industrial strategy through communication technologies for modeling the consumer while creating the commodities. A 21st century issue that we have been seeing in sociology for the last 40 years. So our respect findings, we did a very brief analysis between Twitter and the Mastodon, Google Drive, and Nextcloud, World Wide Web, and Fediverse. We took some more centralized technologies, some centralization of the power, some calculation centers, companies as Twitter, Google, and also the World Wide Web, and compared with others that are decentralized, at least not so much centralized as Mastodon, Nextcloud, and Fediverse. We conclude that education with digital technologies that do not address technology agencies risks making immaterial labor and mindshare invisible, which can arise from the consolidation of platforms leaderships as calculation centers. It's not always that it's happened, but it can happen. We need citizens that are vigilant and proactive on that. This invisibility risks centralizing the regulation of digital life on a few privileged actors, limiting the critical awareness or critical consciousness, as Paulo Freire says, of the population, and also the democratization of the regulation of digital life. But it's not decentralized to people. It is centralized by some calculation center positions. Here I have the methods. This is more Caroline expertise, so I will just read very fast and try to be faithful to her writings, because I cannot contribute better than her. As methods, we propose synthesizing research data to make theoretical propositions initiated in previous empirical analysis we did as the past 2 years. Peer-reviewed research papers addressing various digital technologies between 17 to 22 are retrieved from scholarly database, and after some inclusion-exclusion criteria, we ended up with approximately 90 papers. A simple thematic analysis is suggested to examine the different papers' content in NVivo 12, and through meta-synthesis strategies, theoretical conceptualizations of the consequence different digital platforms have on social practice are applied. Finally, topic generator in thematic analysis and congeneration, in turn, facilitates the memory and diagramming to build concepts and theory. So here is, you can check on our article, the within and cross-study diagram to better know what we did, the conceptualization. And I conclude. Technologies have neutral characters that research terrorizing agents networks must continue exploring conceptually, as better understand this can make citizens vigilant and proactive in relation to the democratization of socio-technical structures of the internet space. Educational research has the responsibility for developing critical theories addressing the translations of interests between humans and technologies in the formation of mini-making and to empower mini-makers to continue the democratization of the digitally globalized world. So I finish now. I thank you again for the patience because of the issues, and thank you very much. I hope it was clear.
Okay, thank you, Stefano.
Thank you.
Okay, so now in the conclusion, I sincerely thank our authors for their excellent presentation and great contribution in this session. And for all the participants for being a part of this international conference. Thank you once again. We, on behalf of our whole team, thank you for your support during this version and the previous version of this conference. And we will be happy to have you all in the physical mode in the next version of this conference. And further, all the participants will be getting their digital certificates through email within 2 working days. And the publication will be live within 5 to 6 months. Further, all the papers have been already forwarded to the Springers, so kindly cooperate with Team ICICT 2023. And just before we end this session, I would like to thank our session chairs to chairing the session. Just 1 second, sir. So there is one token of appreciation to the chair on behalf of Global Knowledge Research Foundation and Team ICICT 2023.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you very much for invitation.
And,
It was a pleasure to participate.
sir, this one is for you also. Thank you. Okay. So now in the end, I would like to just request you all to turn on your camera so we can capture the good virtual memories of this conference to make it more memorable. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you, all of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Pablo and all. Thank you, Harsh.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, once again.
See you. Bye.
And okay, bye-bye. And everyone, please stay safe and take care, everyone.
Bye.
You too. Bye.